Hello, English 5/1. I hope you all are doing well. Missing you around the classroom. Keep wearing your masks outside, washing your hands when you arrive home. We've been working in Unit 8, A Bag of Laughs, in our English books. We've been learning about tongue twisters, Susie sells seashells by the seashore. Try and say that 3 times fast. Susie sells seashells by the seashore. Susie sells seashells by the seashore. Susie sells seashells by the seashore. Jokes. Knock knock jokes. Knock knock. Who's there? Idioms and similes so far. Knock knock. Who's there? Boo! Boo-hoo! You don't have to cry, it's just me. In English, boo-hoo is how we interpret crying. Boo-hoo-hoo-hoo is crying. And limericks, too. We read some limericks. There once was a man from Singapore who banged his head on the door. When it fell down, he asked with a frown, "Now why's my floor on the door? Why is my door on the floor?" There was a man from Singapore. They always start with, there once was a man. There once was a man from Singapore who banged his head on the door. When it fell down, he asked with a frown, "Now why is my door on the floor?" Frown is the opposite of a smile. Smile and then frown. He was unhappy, his door's on the floor. And then we were learning about idioms, groups of words that don't have any meaning in the context or as they're put together, but have a different meaning in the sentences that we're using. I've got ants in my pants, or I keep moving around, can't sit still. And no use crying over spilt milk, water under the bridge, no use crying over spilt milk, things that have already happened, that are in the past, that we can't change. And today we're going to talk about similes, or comparisons of things that help make our language, or make English language interesting and colorful and a fun experience that make you smile when people come up with a clever simile and you hear it for the first time. On page 43 in our pupil books, Carrie and Jill go to study at Carrie's house. Read and listen. "Your younger sister's having so much fun." "Yes, she is. She's as playful as a kitten." As playful as a kitten is the simile. We all know that kittens are playful, so even if you've never heard the simile before, as playful as a kitten, you realize right away how she's describing her sister, as playful as a kitten. Getting into everything, with lots of energy, playful as a kitten. And we see some examples of similes. We're going to take a look at a PowerPoint and come back to see the examples in the book. Similes, as something to something, comparing two things. As playful as a kitten or as cold as ice. We all know that ice is really cold. You can't hold ice in your hand very long. As cold as ice. Let's just go back a second. As cold as ice is usually in reference to somebody's emotions. Somebody that's cold is not very emotional or expressive. So as cold as ice, they're they don't smile too much or show many emotions. They're as cold as ice. Black, coal. What do you think it could be? It would be as black as coal. The night was as black as coal. Or we changed the engine oil and it was black as coal. We all know that coal is super black, so if you've never even heard this idiom, you know it's very, very black. Good and gold. As good as gold. Something is really, really good. It's as good as gold. Gold is the international standard of wealth or money. It can be traded anywhere in the world. So if it's as good as gold, it is good anywhere. High in some mountaintops. As high as a mountain. Mountains are the biggest things in our area, so as high as a mountain, is as tall or as big as it's going to be. Old and some hills. As old as the hills. The hills were around before my parents or their parents, and they'll be there after me. So as old as the hills. They're things that have been around for as long as anybody can remember. Old as time. Time goes on forever. It's been happening forever. So as old as time. It's a long, long time. Deep in the ocean, as deep as the sea. As deep as the sea. Nobody knows exactly how deep it is in what spot, but as deep as the sea. Blue. As blue as the sky. Some days are bluer than others, but on a blue, blue day, the sky is the bluest. So as blue as the sky gives you an idea of something as being really very blue. As dark as night. As green as grass. The grass is very green. Nighttime's very dark. It could be as dark as coal or as dark as night. As white as snow. Snow is pure, pure white. And it covers everything. So everything becomes blanketed in snow, including the trees. So as white as snow is very, very white. Beet red. Beets are very red and they stain. The juice of the beet can stain clothes, stain napkins. Beet red. As red as a beetroot. As poor as a church mouse. As poor as a church mouse. The church doesn't have a lot of money, but as poor as a church mouse, he's pretty poor. He's got no money from the church. Brave lion. As brave as a lion. Lions can be attacked by tigers or hyenas. They'll fight anything in the jungle. So as brave as a lion. As a fox. As sly as a fox. Foxes don't have to fight too much because they're sly and they can sneak up and capture their prey. Sly as a fox. There's a bull. You can see because he's got a ring in his nose. He's as strong as an ox. Bull or an ox, as strong as an ox. Mules, when they don't want to do something, there's nothing you can get them to do to change their mind. So we like to use as stubborn as a mule as an idiom. Stubborn, someone who's stubborn doesn't want to listen to you. And they want to do whatever they want all by themselves with nobody else. So as stubborn as a mule, someone who's just going to do their own thing. And a snail, snails move very, very slow. As slow as a snail. Or as, what else is slow? Okay, a feather. Feathers are very light. Birds have to be light to fly. So, as light as a feather. And you can pick up a feather and drop it, and the wind resists it as it floats down. As light as a feather. As proud as a peacock. When peacocks speak to each other, they display their feathers. Their tails come up into beautiful displays to show each other. As proud as a peacock. When we see inside a beehive, if we can take the top off a beehive and look inside, you can see all the worker bees moving around, creating new honeycomb, making honey, taking care of the bee larvae or the baby bees, helping the queen. They're all moving as busy as a bee. They don't stop moving, as busy as a bee. So idioms or similes use words that we are familiar with. Back on page 43 in our pupil book, we see under 12, the first example, as the floor is as slippery as an eel. Everyone knows that eels and fish are very slippery, and eels don't have fins to grab onto, so you can grab an eel and it will just slide right out of your hands. So if somebody says the floor is as slippery as an eel, it gives you a good idea of how slippery it is. The elephant is big as a bus. Elephants are big and buses are big. So if someone says the elephant is as big as a bus, you know it's not a baby elephant, it's a big elephant. She has eyes like a hawk. In number 3. Hawks can see their prey or their food from thousands of feet in the air and flying around, circling around, spot the prey and swoop down and eat it. So if she has eyes like a hawk, she has great eyesight. She can see small details very far away. In number 4, he ran like the wind and won the race. The wind goes blowing by, you can't tell how fast it's going. So if he ran like the wind, it's just faster than you can imagine. He ran like the wind. On page 44 in your pupil books, we have exercise 13 and 14. So for homework, in the pupil book, page 44. I'm writing backwards, so my 4 is a little bit off. Page 44 in your pupil book. The example is, number 1 is, as strong as an ox. A picture of an ox and strong. And then exercise 14, complete the sentence with your own similes. I'll give you an example. For number 1, I don't want to see my example when I'm correcting the pupil books. Think of something else. The man was as tall as a giraffe. Everyone knows giraffes are tall animals. So if the man was as tall as a giraffe, he's very tall. Okay, exercise 13 and 14. And then, in our workbooks, on page 30 and 31, we have more practice with similes. Complete these similes with the correct adjectives from the box. So, you can see that you can help find the answers in your workbooks to what we're doing in the pupil books. So if you go back to she as blank as a monkey, or he as blank as an eel, we saw that the floor is as slippery as an eel. So come back and forth in your books to complete the exercise in your workbook. Page 30 and 31. 30 and 31. Page 30 and 31. Okay. Right, for next class, we'll start talking about some adjectives. Order of adjectives. Okay, class, pupil book 44 for homework and workbook 30 and 31. See you next class.